Hi, I'm Lisa Bardot, and today's video is all about Procreate 5. All the amazing new features, where to find them, and how to use them. Version 5 is the latest major release for the Procreate drawing and painting app for iPad. It's their biggest update yet, and it's packed with a ton of useful new features and tools. In this video, I'll be giving you a comprehensive overview of all the new features and how you might use them. I'll be going over everything that's new in Procreate 5. Major performance improvements, new animation tools, Brush Studio and new brushes, the reimagined color panel, and Photoshop brush import. I'll also be showing a ton of other new features like the clone tool, save and load selections, color dynamics, interface improvements, and much more. Because there are so many new features, there's a lot to cover. I'd recommend watching the whole video through and then bookmark it and use the chapter markers in the video description to jump to sections when you need a refresher. If you're new to the Procreate app, I highly recommend watching my Intro to Procreate tutorial. Let's get started. Procreate 5 was released on December 8, 2019. If you haven't updated already, you can find it in the App Store. Procreate 5 requires iPadOS 13.2.3 or higher. So if you don't see Procreate 5 available, be sure to update your iOS first. Will installing Procreate affect my existing artwork? The update is designed to install, and all your artwork files, brushes, palettes, and preferences should be there after the update. That being said, it's always a good idea to back up your important Procreate data before a major update, just in case things go south during the update process. Faster thanks to Valkyrie. Performance in Procreate 5 is much faster thanks to a new graphics engine called Valkyrie. Without getting too much into the technicals, this is an invisible but important update that will make for a much faster, responsive Procreate experience. Chances are you'll notice the change right away. Canvas templates. When you open up the app after the update, everything should still look familiar. One of the first big changes can be found in the Canvas templates. The interface is redesigned, but the major addition here is under color profiles. You can now create your artwork using a CMYK color profile. This is useful if you intend on printing your files. When working in CMYK color profile, you'll notice the color wheel looks more dull. This is because printers cannot reproduce some of the bright colors that digital screens can produce. This profile helps you create your artwork using more accurate color representations for print. There's also a list of other color profiles, and you can import a color profile of your own. If you'll be printing your work, check with your print vendor if you're confused about what profile to use. If you're only intending to share your art on the web, I'd stick to the RGB color profile, particularly Display P3 because it has the widest color range. Animation Assist. Even if you've never made an animation in your life, you are going to have fun with Procreate's new animation tools. It's amazing for making simple animations, but powerful enough to make complex and sophisticated animations as well. You can enable Animation Assist in the Actions menu under Canvas. Toggle it on and you'll see this timeline appear at the bottom of the screen. Draw something on the canvas. I'm going to animate a bouncing ball. Then tap Add Frame. The previous frame will reduce in opacity, and you can use it as a reference to draw your next animation frame. This reduced opacity preview is called an onion skin. Keep adding a few more new frames. I'll draw the ball moving down and squishing out a bit as it hits the imaginary ground. If you open the Layers panel, you'll notice every time you add a new frame, you're adding a new layer. Press play to instantly preview your animation. Let's make some adjustments to this bouncing animation. Tap Settings. Here you can set your frames per second. That lets you slow it down or speed it up. Down at the bottom here is the new looping options. One shot plays the animation once and stops. Loop plays it in a continuous loop. And ping pong plays it in forward, then in reverse repeatedly, which is perfect to make this ball bounce up and down. You can also set the number of onion skin frames in case you want less of them as you draw new frames. You can set the opacity of the onion skin as well. Another really cool animation feature is that you can designate a layer as the animation background, which is a static frame that will remain throughout the animation. Create a new frame and place it at the beginning of your animation. I'll fill this with blue. I'm using one of the new built-in Procreate brushes called Pimsol to draw some clouds. Tap on that first frame in the timeline and turn this on to set it as a background. You can designate a foreground layer as well. Add a frame at the very end of your timeline. I'm using a new brush called Wild Grass to very quickly draw a layer of grass at the bottom of the frame. Tap the frame and set it to foreground. Other options when tapping on a frame allow you to delete or duplicate a frame. You can also set the new feature called Hold Frame. I want the ball to slow down as it reaches the top of its trajectory. Tap the frame and then use a slider to set how many frames you want this to repeat. The great thing about this tool is that it doesn't add to your layer count. The animated GIF export options have some additional settings as well. Up at the top, you'll see an estimated file size. There are two new settings which affect the way colors are rendered. The GIF file format is limited to only 256 colors, so if you've ever exported a GIF in the past and had colors disappear, these settings will help with that. Dithering reduces colors by using pixel patterns to create the illusion of more colors. Per frame color palette will optimize color on a frame-by-frame basis, instead of on the GIF as a whole, potentially allowing more colors in your GIF. But it might also cause some weird color variations. The new animation tools are awesome. I'm looking forward to making an updated version of my popular Procreate animation tutorial to include all the new features and show you some other cool tips and tricks with animation. Stay tuned for that. The new color panel. Procreate's color panel has received some major upgrades in version 5. Firstly, you can drag it out of the top corner and have it remain present on your screen as you work. This is great for when you're working on an illustration that requires a lot of color changes. Tap the X to send it back up to the corner. Another new feature is color history. Your 10 last used colors appear right here above the color palette area. You should note that you won't see the history section if you have a 9.7-inch iPad. This is due to the small screen size. Procreate 5 also adds color harmony. This feature will help you choose harmonious colors for your work. Move one of the circles around to change colors, and use the slider to adjust the brightness. You can choose between 5 different color schemes. First is complementary, or opposites on the color wheel. This palette will be very high contrast. Split complementary is a color and the 2 neighboring colors to its complement. This palette will have less contrast than the complementary and be a bit easier on the eyes. Analogous, which is 3 adjacent colors, creates a very uniform palette of closely related hues. Triadic is 3 evenly spaced colors on the color wheel, which can look very vibrant and contrasting. Finally, there's tetradic, which is 2 complementary pairs. This can make for a very colorful palette. One more color panel update. You'll notice the color selection circle looks a little different. The left side shows the color you last used, the right side shows the color you are selecting. The second rectangle in the upper right here used to compare your last color and current color, but now the second space holds a secondary color. The secondary color is used for Procreate's color dynamics in the new Brush Studio. I'll get to that next. Brush Studio. The new Procreate Brush Studio is a game changer. I might be a bit biased as a seasoned brush maker, but Brush Studio, with its 150 brush settings, takes brush creation to a whole new level. Creating and customizing brushes is now a full screen experience. There's even a drawing pad so you can test out your brush as you make adjustments. The whole interface has been redesigned and they've packed it with a large number of new settings, adjustments, and controls. I'm not going to go into great detail about what everything in here does because it can get a little complicated. Here's what you need to know. All these new settings mean that brushes can be made to be even more realistic, can achieve new effects, and open up brush capabilities that were never possible before. There are new settings in nearly every category. Some exciting additions are new ways to manipulate grain, letting brushes interact with textures in entirely new ways. There's the auto repeat function within the grain source editor, making it easy to make repeating textures or even pattern brushes. New rendering settings, including wet edges and burnt edges, make it finally possible to create realistic watercolor brushes in Procreate. There are a few new Apple Pencil settings, allowing new ways for brushes to react to the Apple Pencil. There's also numerical inputs on a lot of these sliders, which makes it easier to adjust the settings. There's even a whole new section called About This Brush, and as a brush maker, I really appreciate the team putting this little detail into the app. This tab lets brush makers add a photo and a signature to their creations, as well as a reset point, meaning you can make customizations to a brush, but always have a way to reset it back to default settings. And finally, there is the new Color Dynamics, a really fun and exciting addition. These settings here make it possible to create brushes that change in hue, saturation, lightness, or darkness. These variations can be set to react to pressure, tilt, or can vary based on stamp or stroke. This is something I think people are going to have a lot of fun with, including myself. One of the other really amazing things you can do now is combine brushes. Select one brush and swipe right to select another. Tap Combine, and you've created an entirely new brush. There are settings in Brush Studio that let you control how the two brushes interact. The second brush you select will be absorbed into the first brush, so I'd recommend duplicating both before combining. Of course, you can always uncombine the two brushes in the settings by tapping the second brush, tapping again, then tapping Uncombine. I've spent the last few months noodling around in Brush Studio while I was beta testing Procreate 5, and even I've only begun to scratch the surface on what's possible. I'm very excited to keep experimenting with brush creation in Procreate 5. You can expect to see from me updates on some of my existing brush sets to harness the power of Procreate's new capabilities, as well as some fun, all-new Bardo brush sets. My mind has been bubbling with ideas, and I can't wait to share them with you. New built-in brushes. Because of the new brush capabilities included in Procreate 5, the team at Procreate made a whole bunch of new built-in brushes, over 50 new brushes in all. You can find all these new brushes living amongst the existing built-in brush sets. The new brushes will be listed at the top. In the artistic set, check out Aurora to get a feel of what color dynamics can do. And Old Beach has a watercolor feel to it. In the organic set, Snow Gum lets you very quickly draw a mass of leaves, and Swordgrass can create a grassy, bushy texture. Or maybe something else. There are some cool pattern brushes in the vintage set. And also be sure to check out Storm Bay in the abstract set. This one's just plain fun. All these colors are due to color dynamic settings. I'd tap through all the sets and have fun playing with the many new brushes. Photoshop Brush Import. The next feature is something that Photoshop artists are going to love. With version 5, you can now import brushes from Photoshop into Procreate. And they'll purportedly work even faster than they do in Photoshop. The file type you can import is .abr. There are two ways to do this. First, you'll want your Photoshop brushes saved somewhere in the Files app. One way you can import is by opening the Brushes panel, tapping the plus sign, then tapping Import. Navigate to where you've saved the Photoshop brushes and tap them. The Photoshop brush set will appear at the top of your Brushes panel. You can also import whole Procreate brush set files this way. This plus sign didn't used to import brush set files, but now it does, so that's pretty cool. You can also use split screen view to drag the .abr file from the Files app into Procreate. Canvas information. If you've never taken a look at the Canvas information section of Procreate, it gives you some really cool info. In Procreate 5, this section has been expanded. You can learn some insightful data about your artwork, including layer information, what color profile it uses, how long you've been working on a piece, and more. There's even a new feature which lets you add a photo of the artist and sign your artwork. Pretty neat. Clone tool. Procreate 5 sees the addition of the clone tool, something users of Photoshop might be familiar with. Clone can be useful for really textured drawings where you need to repeat some of the texture without having to redraw it. You can find Clone under the Adjustments menu. A toolbar will appear at the bottom, and you'll notice a circle on your canvas. This circle lets you define the source, or the part of your artwork you'll be cloning. You can choose any brush in your library to paint in cloned areas. You can adjust the brush size and strength, which refers to the opacity of the brush. Paint anywhere on your canvas to clone the source. The source circle will move in sync with your brush strokes. Every time you lift your pencil, it will clone from where your source currently is. I can use clone to make the texture of this duplicated cake layer look a little more irregular, so it doesn't look like an identical copy. You can tap and hold the source circle to have it remain static. This means wherever you touch down your pencil, it will always clone from that spot. I can also use clone to add another candle or two. You should note that you can only clone from the layer you have selected, and it's not currently possible to clone from multiple layers or to a different layer. New Blend Mode interface. The Blend Mode interface has been redesigned. No longer are all the blend modes organized into the sections based on their functions. They are all in a single list now. This makes it a little more difficult to discern what each blend mode does, but this list adds a really cool feature that lets you preview what each blend mode does as you scroll through. So I actually find this much easier and faster to use. The order of the blend modes is similar to the order they've always been in, and if you're looking for normal, you'll find it nestled between the darkening and lightening blend modes, right here. Save and load selections. Another tool that I think is going to be highly useful is Save and Load Selections. If you make a complex selection you'll be using again and again, you can save the selection to access later. Make any selection, then tap Save and Load, then the plus sign here. Your selection will be saved in this menu, and you can reload it at any time by tapping it. Swipe left to delete a saved selection. As you can see, the new update to Procreate is packed with so much good stuff. I hope you have fun checking out all the new features. You can expect to see new tutorials from me going more into depth on these tools, as well as new brush sets to harness the power of Procreate 5's Brush Studio. I am super excited at all the possibilities that this feature-rich update has enabled, and I cannot wait to see what artwork you create with Procreate 5. Please be sure to subscribe to learn more about drawing, illustration, and of course, working in Procreate. Again, this is Lisa Bardot. I am the owner of Bardot Brush, one of the leading brush creators for Procreate. If you'd like to support me, I hope you'll take a look at my premium brush sets that inspire creativity at bardotbrush.com. If you're looking to connect with other Procreate artists, ask questions, and share your Procreate work, I would join my Facebook group, Procreate Community. Learn, draw, share. It's got over 20,000 members and growing, and people always remark on what a supportive space it is for artists. I also run a group called Making Art Every Day, Bardot Brush, which is for all things Bardot Brush and for participants in the Making Art Every Day project. This is an ongoing series I created which consists of drawing prompts, motivation, and tutorials to help you overcome creative fears and establish a daily art making practice. I've been running it for all of 2019 and I'm excited to take it into the new year in 2020. I've got some really fun stuff planned. You can learn more about it at bardobrush.com/joinMAE. If you're posting artwork to Instagram made with my brushes or tutorials, I would love to see it. Use the hashtag #BardobRush. Thanks and happy art making! If you like this video, please subscribe for more awesome tutorials. And check out one of my other videos. Have a great day!